Well, this has been bullshit. I didn't even realize it wasn't streaming. So, like the stream crashed. So sorry about all that. Anybody who's watching this on playback. Sorry about that. But I think we're back now. Gonna get back to it. I'm trying to I want to go to the live chat right now. So we'll do that. And I'm being belchy because I'm drinking nothing but seltzer today. I should probably put Knuckles here too. I'll just do that. Okay. Now, next page. See if anybody's watching at. I guess not. Not right now. But we just started, so we'll see how that goes. I just hope that I'm still live. What is... Okay. I was just getting self-conscious there for a second. Hear my seltzer bubbling in the can. Drink me, it says. There we go. I think that's a Walmart store brand. Blackberry seltzer. I've been getting frustrated by how expensive it is to buy soda in can. That's one of the cheaper options. As these things go. I'm going to need to fix this later. This is looking a little angular where it should be curved. I think I got that a little bit wrong. I probably could have blown this up a little bigger. I'm working at a slightly smaller scale right now. Any mistakes I make are therefore blown up a lot more. We are on, right? We don't really have any viewers, but we are on. Okay, I'm getting self-conscious. It's 4 a.m. on the West Coast. Not to dox myself. Especially not with I'm not really expecting a lot of American viewers at this hour. Though I suppose there must be some night owls out there, maybe people just getting up on the East Coast. Probably aren't that interested in watching me do a little inking this morning, but there we go. Let's try to extend these a little. Yeah, because the stream cut off, I'm getting like self-conscious. Like every time I look up, I'm like, wait, am I still streaming or what? It was weird that it got cut off and then just wouldn't turn back on for a while. I don't know what I had to do other than just give it a little time. Okay. Can't 100%. Sure, that line there sort of goes in two different directions. I wasn't getting all the context. Zigzag's hand is probably the important part. The one that I'll want to get especially right. I think my pen, unfortunately, is a little too thick for this. What if I tried one of these? This might be a little battered, but if I do this right, it might be thinner. Oh, I don't know, not really. These pen nibs are a little fragile, so they all sort of end up being like the 0.03 size after a while. So that's what I bought yesterday, was a lot of 0.03s or 03s. Because they do sell 0.01s, I mean 01s and 0.05s and 01s and 02s, but they start to fray after just a little bit of use. They become about as thick as the 3s. So it's not that much of a difference. The 3s are a little sturdy. They also sort of give out after a while. Pretty weird, huh? Are we on? Like am I public? I feel like I'm public, but yeah, I'm not getting any viewers. Whoops. I'm not really getting any viewers. Ah, well, what you gonna do? I think I am streaming though. Like, I'm pretty sure. I'm checking on my phone how live I am. circle with my hand. Okay, yeah, I guess I am live. Just nobody's watching, which is understandable. At 4 a.m. when I'm just doing this, but. This is making up the best angles to do this one. Super see what I'm doing. It's got to be accurate, so I'm a little bit off. But I'm sort of like the direction that I'm going. That's wrong. Close enough. It'll have to be close enough. But, I mean, you'd think that nobody's looking at these in this kind of detail, but for one thing, I am. And for two, when it's off enough, long enough, it adds up. I'm saying this as I totally screwed up that line. That one too. Fuck. Fix these in post. But, yeah. I should maybe have printed this out a little bigger. But I made mistakes that I made. Don't matter to the same extent. With these, if you're even a little off, I think I can fix these in post. So, whatever. And I don't think that when these are reproduced, you won't really see it. Like my old artwork that I'm replacing. Looks fine. Unless you're really like looking at it really carefully, but you do want it to stand up to scrutiny. These promotional artwork. You want it to be good. Accurate. Just the slightest bit off. No problems. Normally you do kind of want to have like a quick sweeping feel to things. That's why you have animation and then you have cleanup. And the cleanup are people who really tie it down carefully, but the animation people, they need to be like sweeping to give it a sense of movement. Anyway, I'm almost done. There is a fourth page. I'm saying to nobody watching. Should I promote this? Because I am public, but I'm not getting any people. I might promote this. Give me a second. Copy video URL. Excuse me. I'm going to just go to my social media. First of all, let's make sure that this is even on. I think so. Please promote, says Professor Tim Wilson. Well, thank you. Thank you for saying something, because it's like, yeah, please promote. That at least shows me that someone's watching. Because like, I was just getting worried that it wasn't public somehow, you know. Because that does happen. Like sometimes something's not set right and people can't actually see it. But we'll just do that. Real quick. Yeah, a little bit of social media. But I mean, it's 4:20 a.m. So we're not going to be getting a lot of people anyway. But we should try. Should I get another drink? This is going to be the next. I'm going to get Knuckles. That's what I'm going to get. I'm going to get a drink and I'm going to get Knuckles. And we're going to finish up here. There. But I did I did link it on social media where algorithms will ensure that nobody sees it because they do throttle YouTube links. But I do got that going for me. And we're going to finish up here. Doing another zigzag hand. Well, thank you, Professor Tim Wilson. I appreciate it, and thank you for commenting, so that I know this stream is working because it did cut off before. Excuse me. I'm drinking nothing but seltzer, so I'm going to be belching a little. But I really appreciate you being here. I was doing some work, some corrections on A Thief in the Cobbler video game earlier today in the stream. Now I'm making some promotional images. Which is something I haven't done in a while, and the first promotional images I ever inked were like 2006, 2007, 2008. And the early ones especially are just not quite right. The line width is all over the place, and they were inked, I think, at a relatively small scale compared to what I'm doing Now, I wonder, I think the lines go this way, but it really could go either way. There might not even be a line there. But in this pencil version, the line's sort of, it's a little ambiguous. But I gotta say, this is very good, like, reference. This is like an actual pencil drawing. And with pencil drawings from the film, when I started out, we really didn't have much like that. We didn't, like that. And when you want an image that really is representative of the film, you know, since the images that you get are kind of random, the art that's actually survived to be scanned, and so it's a little bit like beggars can't be choosers. But I was going through all of that artwork recently, and if you're a member of the Recobbled Cut group on Facebook, which you should be, links in the description, I was just going over that artwork, and I did repost some of the more interesting stuff, because I was sort of, I did a few posts about deleted scenes from the movie, and I also posted some of the selected artwork that I'd specifically called out as being stuff that I could use for promotional art this time around. Or stuff that I could re-ink, as I'm doing now. So I was going through it all. There is a lot to go through. We did, a lot of people sent in a lot of stuff, but we did have a lot of stuff. And there's also the Academy collection, which I shouldn't admit this is from, but you can see the watermarks. So, nothing pretty secret. But I'm pretty sure the Academy collection comes from, at least partly or mostly, from like an ex-Miramax collection. And I think I played some part in that being found, because they did, someone from whatever remained of Miramax emailed me once and said, a few years ago, and said, we're getting rid of assets. I think Harvey Weinstein was gone at that point, and so on. They said, well, who do we send all this artwork to? And I said, Richard Williams. I think they did. And I think that them ended up at the Academy. I don't know how much Richard Williams personally saved, but that all ended up at the Academy too, probably. But they scanned it all, and now we can see it. But Andreas Wetzel-Thurhorn and a lot of other people also sent in artwork to me. Like I scanned a collection that Andreas had kept and stuff like that. So we have that going for us. I don't know whether I should draw this or not. This little bit of the ring, I don't know if it's up or... shit, I'm getting this a little bit wrong. Little things I'm going to have to fix in Photoshop, so I'm going to be a little wrong. This is also what they call a dead line weight. It's just a very single line weight. But that's sort of what you would get anyway in animation. When I did the first art back in the day, I tried to vary the line weight, and that was a big mistake. That really made it look wrong. If you look at it very closely. So I'm letting that this time around. Just keeping the line weight mostly the same. There's a little variation, but it's very subtle. And I don't know that it would have translated to the painting process. Sorry, I am kind of belching a little. Drinking like nothing but soda this morning. Should maybe stop doing that. I do sometimes like drink soda early in the morning to get me going, and it doesn't really work usually. Still get tired and crash, and I just do it with an accelerated heart rate, which is not healthy. It's almost like caffeine makes me crash to an extent. I don't know how true that is, but those weird things. But later in the day, caffeine does more of what it's supposed to do. I think when I'm a little more stable in terms of how awake I am. I'm a bit tired after the first meal of the day. I don't know why I'm talking about that. But I did get in the habit of like drinking caffeinated soda early in the morning when I have it. Which would in theory get me going in the morning, but actually never does normally. But yesterday, I had kind of a bad day, but I was also outside for a good chunk of the day, doing some shopping. And I got some sun, and I do feel better today. So I hate to admit this to myself, because I never feel like going outside. Especially in like 90-degree Los Angeles heat. I cannot stand it even for a minute. I'm sneezing and all this and that. But like, I'm very sun deprived, I'll admit it, you know. And you do need that, and I'm exercise deprived. So I'm feeling better today. And I usually feel like garbage, so that's pretty significant. So, yeah, probably should be getting more sun and exercise. But yeah, thank you for, if you're still watching, thank you for being here. I was working on a new version of the movie, Recobbled 4.2. It's not a Mark V. That is actually a banned word in the chat. Mark V, it's not happening. But I was working on a somewhat revised version. But then I had some sinus surgery because I'm concerned about my health, which is kind of what I'm talking about. It's kind of what I've been talking about here just now. Trying to keep myself healthy enough that I can keep working, which is, it's a struggle, you know. I've kind of burnt out and hit a wall. But anyway, I had some sinus surgery, which is supposed to help my breathing and sleeping. So on my face, my whole head, I was bleeding from my head for like 2 weeks to a month. and it was really tough recovery. I don't know how much it even helped the problem, but at least at this point, it'll hopefully settle into something better, but there haven't been as many immediate benefits. But when I was recovering from surgery, I wanted to do something else, so I kind of abandoned. I was just in a different headspace, or wanted to be in a different headspace. So I abandoned the Cobbler work for a little while to work on something a little less, I guess, a little less important. So I was doing Nintendo video game Romhacks for a while, and then I was doing, this past week or so, I've been doing the cover art for them, and one of those Romhacks was a Thief and the Cobbler Super Mario Brothers 2, which was something I had wanted to do kind of as a gag since 2011 at the latest, but for a long time I'd kind of had that concept art on my sleeve, and I never did anything with it. And then I did. Yeah, thank you. I think that I did have a very positive effect. Like, this was not a movie that people knew about in the general public. It was something that animators kind of knew about, but it was also a punchline, and there was no really ideal way to see it. Certainly not as ideal as the recobbled cut became. Who the fuck is MrBeast? I'm gonna Google that. He's some fucking YouTuber. I don't know. He looks like an asshole. Okay, that chat didn't actually pop up for me though. Can I see that now? I'm sorry, but SolarWig, I didn't respond to you because my chat didn't pop up on my phone immediately. $10,000. I don't think that would be enough. Anyway, need you need more than that. But here's what I will say. Someone actually did donate more than $10,000, and that's what I've been working on with, because I've got no income these days, the pandemic and whatnot. But no, I don't think a beast would do it for me in particular. I don't know who that is. I sort of recognize him, but he was like doing Squid Game in real life, and I was like, that's an asshole thing to do. That really misses the point of Squid Game. It's just clickbait. So yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't like YouTubers. I like some YouTubers. But, okay, so I think I'm gonna keep going. As long as I can stand it. But yes, someone did donate more than significantly more than $10,000, and that's what I've been working with for a while. Not all at once, but I couldn't have done Raggedy Ann or the current Thief and the Cobbler that I haven't finished yet without that. So, hang on a sec. I think I gotta unplug the shit. I think I have to unplug the mic real quick to be able to do this, or unplug the camera. I've got to unplug something. To be able to pull this off. So give me a second. I think I'll unplug the camera. I'll keep talking. But I need to copy some files real quick. But yeah, I don't like to deal with hypotheticals. But I think it's also just like, I don't know who that is. He seems like a dick. That would not ever happen. Okay. So I'm going to copy some files. Methinks. Methinks is also a cringe thing to say. But if I'm cringe, then I am cringe. I need to copy some files because I'd like to be looking at reference for this next thing. Because I gotta redraw some stuff. So I'm just going through my reference for a bit. We'll see what we got. Okay, but my reference is on a hard drive that I got to plug in via USB. And I'm also plugging in my camera via USB, so so yeah. Anyway, I'm done. Okay, we're back. We'll be back in a minute. Plug the camera back in. Plug the camera back in. But I don't know what I could do with $10,000 that I haven't done already, because someone did donate more than that. That's kind of what I'm working with. There, I'll say it. It would take a lot more if you're thinking like to do new animation and stuff. It would cost more than that, I think, to hire professionals who aren't me. Because I am a professional, but I'm not doing animation also. And we are out of focus. This happened last time I did this shit too. What are you doing, camera? There. Yeah, we are out of focus. I don't know why you're winking at me. I'm sorry that I get so like, I get kind of squicked out by comments, to be honest. Like this, I might sound like I'm being a dick here, because I get a little bothered by comments. It's like, I'm like, wait, what are you talking about? What's your agenda here? Sometimes, you know. Maybe that's just a me problem. but like people used to leave like kind of like weird mean comments, so I sort of had to get on my guard about stuff in a way that I wouldn't have been before. So sorry about that. Yeah, I get a little like defensive and weird about about comments. A lot more than I should be. Sorry about that. But I also, I'm also 41 years old, so I don't know what the fuck people are talking about half the time on there. Talking about YouTubers, or I guess more like I don't know why it's relevant. But people like their YouTubers. It's also like I don't get a lot of comments usually, so like the one comment is running through my head, and I'm like, what? I don't even understand why you would ask that in the first place. So I'm like blindsided, and then I keep thinking about it. You know do you know the scene in the Twin Peaks revival, where Hawk is like, is it about the bunny? It's not about the bunny. Is it about the bunny? Am I so out of touch? It is it Thursday? No, it's Friday now. See, I thought I could be out of touch Thursdays, but I think I'm out of touch Friday. I also think that this pencil, which I just bought yesterday, is losing its sharpness already, and I would actually need a sharpener, and I'm not 100% sure that I have a sharpener. What does the back of text, whatchamacallits, look like? It's just like a back, just a regular back. Okay, he's got patches on all four sides in this shot. So just do that. He's got more stitches than I thought he had. I don't know. I think I just went through so many times in my 20s where people were like fucking with me, referencing something I don't give a shit about, you know, and then like making fun of me for my reaction to it, like China the wrestler or whatever. Like I don't care. I don't know. You're the one who brought it up, but you're gonna make fun of me for whatever I say as my response. Like I don't know who the fuck MrBeast is. But I do think that he, who makes a beast of himself, gets rid of the pain of being a man. Let me see. I'm going to look for a pencil sharpener. And I almost bought a little pencil sharpener yesterday for like $2. I did buy a ruler. But let's see what I got in here. I might not own a little pencil sharpener, or at least one is probably not in this. I just didn't think I would be running out of sharpness so quickly that it would already be a problem already. I feel like I'm being a dick today. I feel like I'm just not. So sorry about that. I'm a little distracted. I'm just trying to remain upright and remain working. I feel like I probably have one somewhere. I should have fucking bought one. I should have paid the $2 yesterday when I was out doing errands. I didn't think I would need it this quickly, but like, so I haven't used a pencil that's not mechanical in a long time. I overestimated the ability of this pencil to stay pencil-y. I don't know where that would be if not that. But I'm gonna take a break of a few seconds. I'll be back in a minute, unless I think of a place that could be. Okay, I'm back. I don't see a pencil sharpener. I might just have to deal with an unsharp pencil for as long as it takes to finish this. Although, what if I use a disposable razor or like a knife or something? What would that work? I don't think that would actually work. I don't know what I'm doing. That's pretty stupid. Yeah, I can't really fake it. I need like a pencil sharpener. That's pretty stupid. It's pretty stupid. But I'm desperate. I was looking for. I was just kind of looking through my. I was looking through my belongings to see if I had a little pencil sharpener just lying around, and I don't think I do. I don't know if I've had one in a very long time, but like you have a memory of having a pencil sharpener at some point. God damn it! So like, there's this old memory of having a pencil sharpener. So like I'm looking desperately around in the hopes that a pencil sharpener will appear, but that does seem unlikely. Not just a regular knife. This is dumb. What I'm doing is dumb. Incredibly unhelpful. I'm whittling. I'm whittling. Okay, I should have bought a pencil sharpener yesterday. I should have bought a pencil sharpener. I had the chance and I didn't take it. Thought I had one. A blue pencil is also something that I was just like, I probably have a blue pencil. I was like, no, I don't. Never bought a blue pencil at any point. Why would I have it? But like, I'm like, I don't need to buy it. I probably just have it somewhere. And here, actually, no, that is true. I probably do have it. It's just all in storage. You know, like I probably had all this shit somewhere. But it's not like I would carry it with me. So yeah, it's a little bit silly. The ability of this pencil to accurately convey what I'm trying to convey is it's definitely becoming worse all the time. I've been using mechanical pencils for a very long time. And I have a lot of those, but they're not blue, which I think is a way in which this blue pencil scores over the other pencils. I need a blue pencil. But it's not sharp. It's just immediately not sharp, and I would need to keep sharpening it. I'd forgotten how quickly a colored pencil loses its sharpness. Sharpity sharp is its sharpness, its qualities of sharpness. So I'm really fighting this right now. This is the greatest fight of my life. It's me versus this pencil. Because I'm trying to draw some of these details on Tack the Cobbler, who, in this case, I'm working from some pretty low quality reference. This is a screen grab. It is an HD screen grab, but it's just a screen grab. Not spectacular in quality. And really wish I had a nice sharp pencil to work on this with. These things go. I mean, I will deal. I will survive. As long as I know how to love, I know I'll be alive. I've got all my life to live. I've got all my love to give. I will survive. But it's not ideal in outer space. You'd think I'd be able to use this for one drawing without it going soft on me, but this is the rate of pencil decay, at least this kind of soft pencil. Can I whittle this? I should stop whittling, but I've got a knife. That is a warning. I'm going TW for it. That'll just have to be good enough. It's not good, it'll just have to be good enough. Do I need to do anything on this guy? I think these are all actually pretty solid. Maybe apart from like this, but maybe did this. There's a certain degree of overlap. Okay, let me look at the reference. The reference is pretty clear. Yeah, the reference is pretty clear. my printer is broken, so this little bit of Tack's hand got cut off in the print. He's got 3 Tacks in his mouth here too. That's pretty regular in Williams footage, but that's not really how we remember Tack. We remember him with like 2 in his mouth. Okay. Well, that'll have to be good enough. Have to be good enough. It does look like we're low on battery. Maybe I will switch battery for anybody who's watching. I guess sorry about being rude about MrBeast. If MrBeast is a nice guy, I know nothing about him. But I think you're just referencing YouTubers for no reason, which is, you know, is what it is. Okay, so I'm gonna switch batteries in the camera. Because I do see a flashing battery light. So let's shut this off. Battery. Pop the battery out. It is very warm. This camera has been running for a while, I guess. Better get used to it though. Let's see how that goes. No memory card. I do not care. How are we doing? Why did it cut off? Is the connection loose? Might be a little loose. Is it about the bunny? Is it about MrBeast? MrBeast? What if, I'm wondering about this toe. I'm wondering about this toe. How would I interpret this toe? Because I think it might actually be like that. Like the way a toe would be from that angle. So just do that. Something like that. I don't know if that's actually what they drew, but I can't really see that clearly. So. I suspect that this pencil is going to screw up this this ink also a little bit. It's going to screw up this pen. I think I'm seeing a little bit of that, but I don't know. Normally I would have inked this. I mean, normally I would have penciled this with mechanical pencil and then gone on the light box for the next step, but I haven't been using the light box today, so I thought I'd use a blue pencil on this blue printout. But I did not buy a pencil sharpener. That was my downfall. My Waterloo, if you will. I made one of the classic blenders. How foolish, I must be very embarrassed. Yes, I think it is affecting this pen to an extent. I think it's damaging this pen to be working over this waxy blue pencil. But it's just the way it is. It's bitching enough. Some things will never change, but don't you believe that? I'll turn my. No, there's nobody. I'm still alive. But it's 5 a.m. See, actually, Sad Ostrich says howdy. Okay, hello. Howdy. I really needed a pencil sharpener. That was the situation just now. I don't have a pencil sharpener. And it's unfortunate. I was just taking a sip of seltzer out of an empty can. The last couple drops there. I've been drinking exclusively seltzer, and before that, Diet Dr. Thunder, a Dr. Pepper knockoff. Dr. Pepper is prune flavored, I believe. They won't admit it, but it is prune flavored. I've had some caffeine. I got some sunlight yesterday, so I'm actually feeling pretty good. I don't like to get sunlight. 90-degree California heat. But I'm very sunlight deprived, I should admit that. I'm very exercise deprived, and I hate to do it, but I need that. And yesterday, there's a dentist here who I've had a lot of bad experiences with. And I had a couple different dentists who basically destroyed one of my teeth. They put a crown on it when it shouldn't have had a crown. It needed a root canal first. So they put a crown on it, then then it needed a root canal right through the crown, and then it needed another crown. And there was almost nothing left of the tooth after all that bullshit. So it was dental malpractice, and every dentist, I went to a few different dentists about it, and they all said, the last guy who worked on this should be arrested for what they did to you, and then they proceeded to do something just as bad. But there's a dentist I've been going to who has really been shaking me down. I mean, I spent thousands of dollars because my shitty insurance doesn't cover things like crowns usually and stuff like that. And but I'm beginning to realize that the dentist who's been calling me, like they just call me, so like I'm like, oh, I guess I'll come in. I'm beginning to realize it's really a hustle. I mean, they're really hustling you for money. And it's this COVID times, and they always have a very full waiting room, which is really worrying in these COVID times. It's all like low-income patients. And they look at me and I am having problems with the same teeth because of all the shit that was done to it, left it with very little tooth left. And they just say, well, you need another crown because the crown we did cracked. And you're going to have to pay another $3,000 out of your pocket. And I'm like, you're shaking me down. And I know I need this, but I need something that's insured. And these people are just kind of conning me. And it was just really stressful. And I was just having like breakdowns at the dentist basically. And because I don't know, I'm going to fucking pay for that shit. And this is not the most trustworthy dentist, very clearly. So they called me in yesterday. They were like, well, you need a filling. They called me literally 2 days ago. I was trying to get an appointment with another dentist, and they said, well, we can see you in 2 months. And I said, well, I'm in pain now. But I wanted to see a dentist who could maybe actually work within my insurance and get me some proper help. But this dentist I'm going to, they called me 2 days ago, 3 days ago now, but 2 days before, and they said, well, you've got a filling, that we could schedule. And I said, okay, if my insurance covers it. But I always, every time I go to this dentist, I say, I'm never going to go to this dentist again. They're scamming you. But then they call me, like, cause they're scamming me. So yeah, they said, well, you got a filling, and yes, your insurance covers it. We've got an approval, so come in. And it turned out they were lying, that they hadn't gotten an approval from my insurance. Nobody's watching, so I'll just say this. They hadn't gotten approval from my insurance. And they were just literally calling me in to shake me down for another $3,000 for crowns, which I'd already said I wasn't going to get done out of my own pocket ever again after last year. It's bullshit. Because I have almost no income. I make like 200 fucking bucks a month. I shouldn't admit that. There's like a website where you can look up how much celebrities make, and there's one about me, and you know, they just make this stuff up, you know, but they were saying, well, based on his popularity as a YouTuber, it's this and this and this. And it wasn't that high a number, but it was like, their number is like, it's as good as my YouTube ever did, right? Just extrapolated to if my YouTube always did as well as it did at one point in 2016, basically, then I would be making that much money, but it didn't. But it's not making that kind of money now. I haven't been working as an artist since the pandemic hit, really. I was working as an artist for a while, and then mostly doing like video game covers, stuff like that. And then like retro games in television, ColecoVision, that sort of thing. And a lot of the people I was working for sort of went out of business, or the projects. There was one developer who I won't name, who I never got a straight answer about it, and I've asked them several times. And, but I designed several entire video games for them, and like an entire promotional campaign and this and that, and I did a lot of work for them, and none of it came out. None of it ever got used or came out. And I don't know what the fucking deal was. I didn't really get a straight answer about it. But there's another company I did a lot of work for who got out of the business. So, like the work stopped coming in. And my YouTube, I haven't, my other YouTube, I have not done a lot with. I did a She-Hulk movie feature back in 2007. And I never actually finished the edit, but I finished an edit, like a movie edit. It's still missing a lot of stuff. But some bits of that did very well on YouTube. Not the whole thing, but like portions of it. Like I would post individual scenes, and some of those did very well, view-wise. And a lot of that I can't monetize. It did well, and I can't monetize it, right? Because of music and because of this and this and that. And now there's a She-Hulk TV series. Boy, I wish I was writing for that, huh? The funny thing is, in my She-Hulk movie, I played myself, and I also played Morbius, Dr. Michael Morbius, who's also like a meme now, like his own bad movie. And I played Morbius very badly, so I think I was ahead of the curve in a lot of ways. I'm kidding, but it does feel like I can say unironically about some things that I'm ahead of my time. So I'm kidding a little bit. But like when I was researching the Raggedy Ann musical, the Broadway musical version, that nobody was paying attention to, but now that has a fandom 10 years later after we were researching it. So one does feel a little bit ahead of one's time, I suppose. This is bigger. I should have been working on this because this is larger. Yeah, this is a larger scale. Mother. But whatever, right? Whatever. So I'll just do that. Let's actually give me a second though, because I'm gonna get some to drink again. Not seltzer. Let's not do seltzer. Okay. I got water on my fingers. falling off my fingers. So I've gotten myself a drink which wasn't seltzer, which is probably a bit of an upgrade. Can you hear that? And we'll just do this. It's a shame that this gets cut off at the side. I'm going to have to draw some of this digitally. I don't have a printout of it. It's off the side of the page. This thing stand right now. This is just based on a couple of HD screen grabs and some blue pencil, but I did not buy a blue pencil sharpener, unfortunately. Yesterday I should have. I definitely should have. I bought some new pens at Michael's. These are Micron Pigma micro pigment pen, and I bought a blue pencil, but I don't have a lot of money. I'm not making much money right now, and I don't want to spend too much of the funding that I got for my various projects. I do have a Patreon, which is bringing in like about $100 something, and my YouTube channel has dropped to under 100. It used to be like 1,000. And like I said, they got websites about how much money celebrities make, like even really minor celebrities. And they got one for me, and they just make this stuff up. So they were just extrapolating based on how popular my other YouTube channel is. And the trouble is that I can't actually monetize most of those videos. And only a few of them ever went viral, and I don't do anything with that channel these days. I don't really know what to do or what people would want me to do. I've been doing Romhacks as a hobby, like Nintendo Entertainment System Romhacks. I'm talking to like nobody right now. But maybe you're watching this later on playback. I know some people do. I also know it's 5:30 a.m. So at least here on the West Coast. So I wanted to do like some YouTube videos about my Romhacks, and those didn't really take off. But some of my old She-Hulk videos did take off at one point, but I can't monetize most of those. So like these fake websites that list how much entertainers make, their version of me, it's always wrong, but their version of me was based on like as well as my YouTube channel has ever done, ever. If I was making that much, then if I was making that much all the time, I think it was more than that.
But like, and if I'd made that much like lifetime, it was really, it wasn't like a huge number, but it was very optimistic. Unfortunately, I'm not making anything these days, really. But this is because the pandemic also, and blah, 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 blah. But this was supposed to be kind of a time of healing and recovery for me, at least to figure things out a little. And like I had sinus surgery, which I'd hoped would help more than it seems to have at this point. I'm still having some problems, but I might just need more exercise and more sun and other things. But it's been tough, you know. I've been burnt out, and the work dried up. A lot of the work dried up, anyway. There is someone who has been funding this project, and I'm very grateful, but I'm also like, I need to get my shit together and be less burnt out and be making progress in my career again, which really has not been happening. Career progress. It has not been happening. But hope springs eternal. I find it hard to promote my work these days. Certainly algorithms don't help, but everybody says that. You know, you get throttled if you post YouTube links on Facebook and Twitter, and like everybody has trouble. I think almost everybody's YouTube has tanked to an extent lately for some reason. YouTube is doing shenanigans. And back in 2016, for whatever reason, for a while, YouTube was really promoting one of my videos, which helped a lot. There's pretty much only ever one video that was monetized anyway. I've had videos mostly from the She-Hulk film that got a lot of views, that got views in the millions, but they weren't monetized. Because of music and because of this and that. You couldn't really do that with She-Hulk anyway, I suppose, legally. So I wasn't really making money. But there was a time when they were promoting my channel, and that helped the channel. They were promoting one video, basically. And that was helping my channel across the board for a while. But I don't know what to do with that channel now. I don't know that I'd really want to go back and do more editing with the She-Hulk movie, because that was 2007. I mean, I might. I did some experiments that I didn't finish, and there's some stuff I should have released but didn't. But it's definitely like old stuff. And there's a lot of newer stuff that I haven't edited and put out that I should be working on. Even a new edit of The Thief and the Cobbler, but there was a talk show that I recorded last year, almost a year ago. I feel bad about it because I never edited it. It was fun. With David A. Scott Jr. It was fun. I was chatting with him for a bit. But I didn't edit it. You need to actually edit this stuff and put it out. And there's so much shit that I could be doing, and like in a lot of cases, it's not stuff which would help my career anyway. And I don't know how to get my career on track again. It's like I don't know how to promote what I'm doing anymore. Like a lot of what I'm doing is just overly secretive, or is just, you know, I can't talk about it till it's done, or it's just, and when I talk about it, nobody listens. When it's finally done, it's like, yeah. I always had a bad habit anyway of like stuff that I was working on in restoration or whatever gets a fan base like 10 years later. Or even like the She-Hulk, like the thing that went viral, that was 10 years old almost when it went viral. Although that some of those had gotten good views previously. But the really significant one was like 9 years old at that point. I'm joking when I say ahead of my time, but ahead of my time. I don't know. But like, yeah, the Raggedy Ann musical, the research we did, that has a fandom now, and that didn't have a fandom when we were researching it. I did a video, a live stream where we chatted with the young Raggedy Ann fandom. We're researching that musical and have made great strides in finding stuff. We did like a little live stream where we talked about that stuff, which is on this channel. There's definitely been projects where, well, the Super Mario Brothers movie, it got a lot of press, and that was supposed to be an official project. I did an extended cut of the 1993 Super Mario Brothers movie called the Morton Janko Cut, which was a film I hadn't seen. I knew its reputation, but they wanted an extended cut of it done, and the plan was that it would be like an official thing, and I was paid for it, but it seemed to be getting held up, like, and I started to get like suspicious about what was going on. It seemed like there was definitely problems, so I just leaked it, and I'm glad I did because it would not have come out. It was supposed to be for an American Blu-ray, which just hasn't happened, and like, there started to be problems, so I kind of saw which way the wind was blowing, I guess, and I leaked it, and it got a lot of press, but I think it got seen as a fan of it, and I wasn't a fan, you know. I was approached as a professional to edit that, but I did enjoy doing it. I think we made the film better. I think it's an interesting project. They got a lot of press, a lot of attention, but it was another case where like the actual hope and plan for that project didn't actually happen. You know, the official release that it was supposed to be. I was like, so like I'm doing interviews and I'm like sitting here like saying, well, it actually I'm not going to say it, but it actually failed from the point of view of what it was supposed to be, for whatever political reasons. People. But there was a version of the work print of Super Mario Brothers, which was one of our files, one of the files that we had transferred from VHS. They put out an unrestored version of it on an Australian Blu-ray, and I was kind of pissed about that, but I'm told that that was in the works before I was done with what I was doing, so they were just kind of full steam ahead, and it was just timing, I think, more than anything. That was the problem. I was surprised they were able to clear so much of the music. Like, there's a lot of like Danny Elfman music in the work print of Super Mario Brothers, but I just figured they'd never be able to release it as it is, and I really tried to minimize that in my edit. I couldn't really remove it, but like I was minimizing it enough that, you know, you probably wouldn't get sued over it. Maybe. but they just released it as is. They only muted one thing, which was Smile Darn You Smile from Who Framed Roger Rabbit, so it's a little bit like Richard Williams following me, because he was, he's on that song, and he, animated that film. And that was also an Allied Pictures production, which was sort of what Princess and the Cobbler was. And some of the same fucking writers worked on both that and like the Calvert Thief and the Cobbler. I've spoken to one of them, so I shouldn't be too mean about it. They certainly put a lot of thought into what they did, more than what I would have thought. But sometimes that's like a forest for the trees situation, where they're putting a lot of thought into an inherently bad idea, right? And they're kind of seeing the details of it, and trying to make those details work when the actual macro project is a sacrilege, right? In both cases, I suppose. It is miserable live streaming to nobody, I'll admit that. But I could be listening to music right now, rather than listening to myself talk. Make the volume high? Are you saying I'm quiet? I think this is all I can do, man. I don't know, man. Apparently I can, actually. Make the volume high? Yeah, like apparently I can actually make it louder. Okay, maybe that's what we'll do. There. Make it louder. I don't know if that's, I don't know how that sounds, but it's probably louder. Okay. I'm gonna concentrate. Because we're doing the face now. The kind of area that people are going to look at. Let me do this too. I might do one more. What I actually have to do is just Photoshop these together so that they actually get released and I can finish something. Maybe I shouldn't actually be doing as much thinking as I am, but I remember there was some stuff I inked back in the day that I didn't even release. At least there was some stuff of the courtiers. I didn't think of the courtiers, but I didn't know. I need to look at my reference again. that right? Is that too big or is that just right? Text eyeballs. I wish I was inking this larger because this is not gonna look amazing. I can probably fix it in post to an extent. But yeah, it's not like amazingly, it's not like going to be amazingly good. How are my 7 or 8 viewers doing right now? How y'all doing? At 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Or thereabout. Okay. Now, this version of his hair is going to be really hard to see, kind of incomprehensible. I'll do my best. Because what I'm seeing as the line art isn't really the line art. It's like a filtered mess. So you can't really see it in the original, is the thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's about 6. It's about 6 of these things. But I don't really have. There. Now I got reference. Not good reference. Not accurate reference, but it'll have to do. Yeah, that probably helped. Probably help with that. Yeah, something like that. Can't really see it when it's colored in either. So it's one of those things. I think we're done here. With this tack, I might do another zigzag. Get some to drink and do another zigzag. I already did a zigzag, but Okay, I'm gonna take that off. I'm back. I'm gonna take a sip. I was just having a Fig Newton. Okay. Having a little sip. I should probably put Grogu on the desk too, but okay. I don't like to put Grogu on the desk without Ginger in. I also have Sonic. I actually have a whole desk of toys over there, but these are the little ones. I also have like got a lot of like these Avengers toys. Yeah. Anyway, let me see. Okay, let's get. I'll keep Grogu here for the time being. Excuse me. Let's draw Zigzag again. How many more zigzags do I have in here? I have 3 more zigzags in here, and they're all about 3 or 4 pages a piece. So I'll do at least one of the things. I'm going to open up the reference. We'll go from there. Now this is from a screen grab, an HD screen grab, rather than a proper it is an HD screen grab, and I did filter the hell out of it, so we can get pretty accurate here. It's just going to be a little bit. You get like thicker lines in places than you actually want, which makes it a little ambiguous, but basically we're all right. Oh, I can't do his beard here. No. But thank you for joining me, anybody who's listening live. Anybody who is. Excuse me. Sipping some water. Or rather, strawberry, orange, banana. Diet drink mix. Generic Crystal Light. Which I drink gallons of in a day, like 2 gallons probably. Almost like a scientific experiment. Which, it so is not doing well because my health is not super great. I do feel a lot better than usual today. I feel very normal today. Because I got sun yesterday. I wanted to go. I went out and did some grocery shopping. And then I wanted to go to the theater. Not that I can afford to go to the theater. I really shouldn't be spending money on anything but bills. I did want to see everything everywhere all at once. And I didn't because it was only playing it 2 times during the day. So I would have had to wait like an hour and a half or another 45 minutes. Probably 2 hours all told. And I wish I'd checked that before going to the theater. I ended up, I was like, I went grocery shopping and I was like, oh, I can't buy anything perishable because I might go to the movie theater. I'll have to leave it in my car in the 90-degree sun. But then when I went to the movie theater, I didn't have any. They were playing like this awful propaganda film, though. Like, amazingly, this piece of shit propaganda film was in theaters. It was really not cool. I guess these things have an audience. Or can buy an audience. It's really fucked up. But, yeah, they were playing the movie, but not many times during the day, so it wasn't something I could see at that time. I'd also gone there to see the Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. A little bit earlier, which I told you I had toys. not a good angle for them, but I do. So I've just been keeping these on my desk as if it makes things a little less boring. Maybe it does. I do get bored. Having Scarlet Witch like guarding the desk. Something. Yeah, I did go to that theater. I really shouldn't. I don't have the money, but it's like I spend a lot of money on shit I don't have money for anyway, just to buying groceries and whatever I need. Gas these days, good lord. Pretty low on gas. It's like I can spend matinee price movie. But I don't do that very often. There's a lot of, I don't watch a lot of movies these days, or a lot of TV series. I watched like one of Moon Knight, and then I didn't keep up with it, and I should actually watch the rest of that. Now Obi-Wan is out, so I want to watch Obi-Wan. But yeah, I don't normally keep up with these. So the fucking like Marvel movies, and I guess Star Wars is one thing I keep up with. And that's about it. I got like Oscar screeners earlier in the year, and I don't think I watched almost any of them. Should I admit that? I think I did watch some of the movies, but not much. When I was, I used to get invites to like go to these, like a Marvel movie or whatever new movie was out for free when I was in Los Angeles proper. But I'm not in Los Angeles proper at the moment, so it's not, it's like an hour drive. I shouldn't say exactly. But it's not convenient for me to go to Los Angeles for screenings. But I don't think I get offered any these days anyway. And it's also like, because of COVID, I've been very careful, so I don't actually do it that often. I do feel a little bit. I do feel some concern when I do go out. Anyway, to answer your question, what am I actually doing? Restoration or sketch practice? I'm new to your channel. Well, welcome. What I'm doing right now is I'm inking some promotional artwork, basically. And this is something back in 2006 or 2007, 2008. I've said this before the last couple of days when I was streaming. There wasn't a lot of artwork out there that could represent The Thief and the Cobbler, because it wasn't a movie anybody knew, and there wasn't a lot of stuff out there. And a lot of people contributed artwork to what I call The Thief and the Cobbler scrapbooks, which you can actually find at Archive. But we spent years putting together whatever people would send from the production of this movie. So we do have a lot of artwork now, actually. But it's not necessarily like the right or most representative artwork, mind you, still. So there's always issues. But when I did the recobbled cut, I was like, well, I want to do a poster for it. And so I drew some of the characters, inking, basically tracing over whatever I could find, mostly from the movie, like really low quality screen grabs and stuff like that. And I inked some promotional artwork, and I was just looking at it the other day, and I was like, that is not up to standard now. At least some of the first ones I did. Some of the later ones I did are probably pretty close to standard. But it's hard to really capture this film accurately. You really have to put a little something extra into it to be accurate. It is difficult and complicated. You want it to be right. And some of the first ones I did, I was working off a very little reference anyway. A very low quality reference. Unclear reference and that sort of thing. So it just wasn't as good. At least if you look at it up close. And I had done what I was actually doing. And this is a little silly, but it's what I was doing. I am proud of it, but it's a little silly. I'm sorry about my squeaky chair, by the way. It's the only comfortable chair. I bought a new one that wouldn't squeak, and it's just not comfortable. It's one of those Amazon. It was like I cheaped out because I don't really have money for stuff, but I bought like another chair. It's in the other room. And it arrived flat packed from Amazon, very small, like flat packed, and assembled it. And it wasn't comfortable. But back in the day, I did my own poster for The Thief and the Cobbler. So I took like art from the film and I inked it. And, recreated it from screen grabs. Now we found some actual art, and we have got some HD scenes, and we got this and that. We got a lot more now, and I think my techniques are also better now. On a technical, like the technology that I'm using, or the process I'm going through, is a little better, and I think I can do just a better job than I did back then. But what I was doing was, recently I was working on a new version of the film, The Thief and the Cobbler Recobbled 4.2. It's not a Mark V. We have not received any material for a Mark V, and right now the words Mark V are actually banned in chat. I was reminded that lately. Yesterday, because somebody was like saying hashtag Mark V. I was like, no, please just leave me alone. But I was working on an update. But then, I've said this a bunch of times, but I had sinus surgery at the end of March. Must have been. And I was really fucked up for a month, bleeding from the head pretty severely for like 2, 3, 4 weeks. And I wanted to have the sinus surgery for a long time, but it was backburnered, and I hoped it would make a real big difference. I don't know that it has. But maybe it'll settle into a good difference. But yeah, when I got the surgery and I was recovering from it, I stopped. I was just in a different mindset, and I think I was almost done with the new version of The Thief and the Cobbler, but I haven't gotten back to it since. I think it's been 2 months. I'll have to look it up. I was almost done. I should get back to it. But I was saying, well, I need to do something different. Well, I'm feeling fucked up. And then I kept doing it. So I was working on, I went back to one of my old hobbies, which was ROM hacking, or like making little games. I was working on, I think, about 17 ROM hacks, some of which I finished and released. But one of them was a Super Mario Brothers Thief and the Cobbler, Super Mario Brothers 2, Thief and the Cobbler, which you can play now. And I was putting together the packaging for all these hacks. There was Della DuckTales and Inspector Gadget and Bomberman 83, Eric and the Floaters, Lee Carvalho's Putting Challenge, Elvira's Monster Party, which was a while back. It was a couple of years ago. I was putting together the cover art for these because I was going to make boxes. I was also making boxes for some other ROM hackers that I know because I could get them printed like that. I was putting together. I don't know if anybody's listening when I'm telling this story, but I restored the international poster for The Thief and the Cobbler. If you're in the Facebook group for The Thief and the Cobbler Recobbled cut, I posted some stuff there last couple of days. I restored the international poster for that, basically for that game as a cover. It's not a perfect it's not really stylistically, it's not a good representation of the film, but it has grown on me. I don't think it's that bad. Piece of work as a poster. But I restored that and the logo and this and that, and I was also going through what artwork I had. I was just saying, for this cover, I was using some of my old artwork, and I was just like saying, this isn't some of the first stuff I did. It's not up to standard, and I could do it better now. I actually don't do this that often anymore. I do it sometimes. But I was working as an artist pretty full time during the mid-2010s. Or at least that was my main job for a while. Doing art for video games a lot of times. Like retro games. And a lot of the people I worked with have gone out of business now. Or are in a different place in their life at the moment. There's also one guy who I won't name names, but I did a lot of work for him. I designed several entire video games and a marketing campaign and this and that. And none of it ever got used or came out, and I don't know why. That happened a few times. So I've kind of been frustrated in my career, I would say, with some of this stuff. There was a friend of mine who I did a whole game for too, or this must have been 2013, 2014. So a long time ago now. But I did a whole game for them, which never came out. They started struggling with Apple updating the iOS and this and that. And I never finished the work either, really, but it was just after a certain point, there wasn't money anymore, and this and that, but I'd done so much. It was one of those where the script was written by someone who, and I didn't want to call them out on it because they were a friend, but they were really, did not understand what is and isn't hard to draw. So it was just the most half-assed script you've ever heard, but you'll ever read. But it was something that they, you would take less effort to write than a tweet. But everything was this huge crowd scene. It was oh fuck. And I didn't So I was trying to draw these huge crowd scenes and really knocked myself out on it, and it was just like, oh god. And then I would have had to color it, and it was going to be a fucking nightmare. But yeah, that was all it was too. They didn't really develop things beyond that. I shouldn't be talking shit because these are people who I'm very fond of. But this particular project, oh gee, I have a lot of projects like that. You just kind of get dicked around. What is this? What am I looking at here? Okay, so I could probably comfortably stop here. Right, probably comfortably stop here. It doesn't matter, but like either way, I don't have to do this, but if I can do this on this. Why the thief and the cobbler? Because somebody had to. What actually happened, you know, I've told this story many times actually, so you can go to my orangecow.org/board. There's links in the description if you hear me tell this story. I've told this story before. I don't know, maybe I'll tell it while I'm here being watched by one person. I heard about the film in 1990 when Richard was promoting Roger Rabbit. He was talking about his long gestating passion project. And then in 1995, it must have been, I saw the trailer for the film Arabian Night in theaters. And I was like, oh god, well this looks like a terrible Aladdin ripoff, but it also says it's by the Roger Rabbit guy. So this must be what happened to his passion project, and something just horribly wrong has happened to this film. Now, I didn't follow up on that for a few years until maybe 1998, maybe, when I got internet. I got internet in 1997 or 1998. And that's also when I was starting filmmaking. But when I got the internet, there was a website by a fellow who worked at Microsoft called Eddie Bowers, which was all about the thief and the cobbler and what had happened to it. So I did my research and I found out what had happened to this film, which is all very unfortunate. And he sent me a videotape. It might have been 2 videotapes, but I think it was one, which had it had some documentaries about Richard Williams on it, but it also had 2 versions of the film on it, Princess and the Cobbler and the work print, in really, really poor quality. It was like an SLP 6-hour VHS tape that was a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy. Just garbage quality, but I was like, so I watched these versions of the movie and these documentaries about it all in one night, and then I was like, I was stunned when I was done with it. I was like, it shook me because I could tell that, you know, he had really, he was trying to create this passion project, trying to create this like greatest animated film that he possibly could. And to an extent that was marketing at first, but I think he really did. I don't know that he ever believed it fully, but it was his passion project, and he was doing absolutely amazing things. And I was like saying, I've just seen this masterpiece of a film, but nobody else can see it, because to see this film, you've got to do what I did and watch several shitty versions of it in a row, and then a version of the film that doesn't exist will be in your head. So it was a weird situation, and I started doing little edits on VHS. I think I did something called the recobbled cut originally on VHS in 2000 or something like that. And because it was VHS, you couldn't actually copy it. It had all kinds of problems. It was like low quality. I passed this around a little, and like 2 people saw it probably. But it was a first attempt to put together the movie the way it was in my head and the way it should have been. But I didn't do it properly until 2006. And then like later than that in like 2007, 2008, and then finally in 2010 to 2013, I did the recobbled cut Mark IV, which is an attempt to really do it right. But what had happened was I belonged to a website which eventually kicked me out. I was very popular there, but then I had a disagreement with the mods, who then started lying about me and doing shit. I basically made fun of a shitty Laserdisc project that they were doing. I shouldn't get into this. This is ancient drama. But I felt that they were lying and bullshitting about this Laserdisc project that never actually happened. And like, it was just like a Laserdisc project, so like it's not going to be great anyway. It's just fucking Laserdisc. They're saying, oh, it's better than DVD, and we need all this money, and like it was such a scam for like 4 years, and then nothing ever came out. I shouldn't talk about this. This is very old drama. And I was sort of like making noise one night at the forum, and they got the hint that I was. I don't even know that I actually said anything, but they got the hint. And some shit went down after that. Really shouldn't talk about that. But anyway, I was at this forum, which is about like fan edits and stuff, and I was popular there. I was doing popular work. I moved it to my own website, orangecow.org, during this time. But I had done, but this started there because I'd gone to film school in Los Angeles in 1999. I thought I'd actually be a famous film director, but then the recession happened and a lot of personal shit happened. And I never actually got work in the industry, which is a shame because I'm pretty good as a filmmaker and writer and this and that. When I was at film school at USC, I was making my own little no-budget feature, which is like a 4-hour drama script that I'd written. It was too long a script. It was called Gods of Los Angeles, and we had no money. And in retrospect, it was just about like not fitting in, like being socially awkward in Los Angeles and not really fitting in. And because all the characters in it are kind of weird, you know, in the way that I was weird. And am weird, I suppose. But I spent a few years, like 3, 4, 5 years, at least 3 years on that project. We shot on mini DV, so nobody ever watched it because it looked like mini DV. It looked like a soap opera. So nobody ever watched it or took it seriously, but it was good. We really worked hard on the performances and everything anyway. It took years to do. But anyway, I spent a few years editing that film. I say film, there's the video. I have no opinion about Love, Death, and Robots or Tim Miller. I don't know. I was anyway, continuing my story. Sorry, I was feeling sick. I just had a cold. I was in Carlsbad, California, I think, dealing with family matters. And I was editing my movie Guns Los Angeles, and had been for years, because we shot like 55 hours of footage, I think. Maybe not that much. 55 is how much we shot for She-Hulk in 2007. I don't know how much we shot for Guns Los Angeles. It was a lot, though. It was a lot. It took a long time to edit, but I was feeling sick and I wasn't really feeling up to editing something that personal at the time. But I wanted to keep working on something, so I started editing what became Star Wars Deleted Magic, which was a documentary about how Star Wars was saved in the editing room. It was fixed in the editing room. This was 2005. And it was sort of my way of reconnecting with Star Wars after the Star Wars prequels had left me pretty jaded. In 1999, my first feature, home video comedy that I made with my friends for no money, that had a full script and was sort of like a feature, because it was 2 hours and it was had a story and this and that, and lots of people worked on it, and we spent the summer on it. Was a parody of Star Wars, The Phantom Menace, and I wasn't the lead. I was directing it, and I co-wrote it, and I edited it, and but I played 56 roles in it, something like that, because I was always there to just do the little parts. But Star Wars Deleted Magic was sort of my way of reconnecting with what I liked about Star Wars, which was that they sort of created this great film out of nothing almost. Not nothing, but it was a film which didn't work at first when they shot it. What they shot didn't super work. They basically did the best editing that's ever been done on a film to save it. Okay, I need to move Wanda Maximoff and Doctor Strange. I was showing my action figures. I need to put these down somewhere, and I don't know where. Okay, I'm going to stand it back up. I also have Captain Marvel, Iron Man, Spider-Man is here. Kylo Ren, I keep forgetting Kylo Ren is there. And Gwen, Spider-Gwen, Ghost Spider, and Infinity War Captain America. I have for some reason. These cheap action figures I've kind of been amassing gradually, very gradually. $5 at a time. But anyway, I did this documentary, Star Wars Deleted Magic, and it was much imitated. It was a viral hit. Everybody ripped it off. A lot of people made their own versions of what that would have been. Everybody ripped that movie off. And it became very popular. And so I did a few Star Wars discs for a while before I started having problems with that fandom, or with that website anyway. Okay, this curve is going to be tough for me. But my point, and I do have one, but it takes a while to get to. This is a tough curl. No wonder I didn't get this right the first time. A bit of a tough curl to get quite right. So I was at that website, which was popular at the time. It was about fan edits and Star Wars and someone was saying, well, what movies need a fan edit? Which movies actually need restoration? And I said, well, nobody will have heard of The Thief and the Cobbler, but you've never seen a movie that got ruined as much as The Thief and the Cobbler did. And somebody should really do something about that. And then there was another fan editor who had done a lot of DVD releases of rare stuff that I really respected. I'm not going to out him and say who it was. I may have said who it was at some point, but I don't think so. I'll try not to say who it was. But he was someone else at that fandom website, that forum, who I admired his work, and like I didn't know that, but he said to me, someone should restore The Thief and the Cobbler, and it should be you, Garrett. And he said, well, I actually worked on The Thief and the Cobbler. It's like this huge coincidence. And he said, I'm going to send you some material that nobody else has seen in 20 years. And you should get started. So I took it as a sign, and I got started. And when I got started, everybody who had ever worked on that film pretty much like came out of the woodwork. And a lot of people had worked on that film over the years. But they'd sort of been waiting for somebody to do what I did, really, to make a watchable version of that movie that they could actually. So it quickly became clear that I was carrying the torch for a whole subset of the animation community. Because this was a movie that the animation community knew, and a lot of people had worked on it, but the general public didn't know about it. But I think the animation community, and certainly the people who had worked on it, there was this deep sadness that it would never finish. It was a punchline in some quarters, and I needed to rehabilitate its reputation after what Fred Calvert had done with his edits. But people just kept coming out of the woodwork who had worked on the movie, and I also contacted anyone I could figure out how to contact who had worked on the movie to ask them if they had anything and if they could send anything in. And so I collected this vast amount of materials related to the film. And at the time, I thought that I might make a documentary about the movie or write a book about it. So I was interviewing people, and I was taking a lot of notes. And I never actually did that, because eventually I started to feel that, okay, I've spent a lot of my life on this movie. I spent years of my life on this movie, and I'm a filmmaker myself, and I'm an artist and a writer myself, and I need to just move on. And I've said that several times over the years, like I'll move on for a while, and then I do come back to The Thief and the Cobbler as a subject matter a lot, actually. But I did need to move on, and I moved on several times to other things, at least for a while, for a few years. But I collected all this stuff, and you can get it at Archive. Like, I've got an archive.org account, and I've actually uploaded my archive. But pretty much anything related to The Thief and the Cobbler that's on the internet came through me. Doing this project, it brought a lot of people out of the woodwork who had worked on the film and who wanted to share what they had, or were at least willing to share what they had and share their memories. And it certainly rehabilitated the movie when people could actually see it, because it had always been kind of more an urban legend than an actual movie. And when you could actually just watch it as a movie and appreciate it on its own merits for the most part, even though the recobbled cut out of necessity is not exactly what the finished movie would have been, because there never was a finished movie, but I did my best with, this chair is squeaking like a motherfucker. Out of necessity, and this is why I always felt a little awkward about what Richard Williams would actually think about it. I think very rightly so, because I had to deal with the fact that Fred Calvert had made these versions of the movie. You know, it happened, and I was using footage from that and making it work as best I could, but still being true to what Richard intended. And sort of making a cut of the movie that explains what the movie was supposed to be, you know, was where I was at with this. So it was definitely something that I took very seriously as like a ball that had been passed to me. This was something important that somebody had to do to honor the work that people had done on this film, and also dispel some of the myths about this film that have, unfortunately, I haven't been able to dispel, because these myths are, people like to repeat the myths rather than like a more nuanced, true version of events. But it was something that I took pretty seriously. Sorry, what was, you say something? So now what are you doing professionally? Restoration, or are you now an animator? No, not really. Yeah, I was supposed to be a filmmaker. I was supposed to be a feature film director, and that's what I studied, and that's kind of what I'm trained for and good at. And that never happened, because I never had any money or connections in Hollywood. So I was just sort of, and Los Angeles kind of made me sick, like just physically ill, and I just didn't get along generally with it. It still makes me sick, and I'm still here. I'm just not doing well. I'm worried about me. But like the recession hit, and I was dealing with personal problems and this and that, and I never got to have a career. So now what I'm doing now professionally is nothing. I'm doing this, and nobody's paying me for it. Like nobody's. People have funded this. I mean, right now I'm living off of someone quite wonderful who is helping me out with the expenses, but I'm not making money right now, I'm afraid. But I when I was working on the recobbled cut, I had support from like fans at that point. But I was working professionally as an artist for a while. I did a lot of like video game covers and commissions and stuff like that. But I didn't study animation. I studied filmmaking. So, like on social media, after a certain point, I was trying to contact anybody who had worked on this film, which was a big chunk of the animators out there. And, you know, animators knew about this film also, so I could sort of friend anybody on social media, on Facebook in particular at the time, who was an animator. And so I was friending all these people who had done amazing things, which I was a big fan of. And so like, and like animators kind of knew me. They got to know who I was, and they had an idea of who I was. But it was also a case where I hadn't studied animation, and I wasn't really being a fan of this film and whatnot. I know that I can draw, but I know the difference between myself and a good animator. Dick Williams is a good animator, and I'm not a good animator. Like I know the difference between me and that, I'm afraid. So I did. There's a friend of mine who was an animation director who worked for everybody. Not everybody, but he's done a lot of work over the years. And he recommended me a couple times for Matt Groening projects for The Simpsons, and for what became some years later, he recommended me for what was I didn't know at the time, but was Disenchantment. But I didn't get those jobs. I'm in the position where people in the animation world probably know me or know this project or have an idea, but that probably also gets me blacklisted from Disney circles. I don't really know, but it probably hurts as much as it helps, I would at least assume. Just because this is a controversial film, you know. Richard Williams was kind of a controversial guy in some respects. So it's complicated, but I was also like, if people are recommending me for animation jobs, I'm not really trained as an animator, so I know the difference between me and that, so I don't know. But I was struggling for a long time. I still am, because it was like, I do a lot of stuff. I've got a lot of talents, a lot of like different talents. And in Los Angeles, it doesn't really matter, like, because everybody's kind of full of shit. And I think people either saw me, they guessed that I was probably full of shit when I'm talking about what I'm doing, or that it didn't matter to them, or I don't know. There's so many people trying to make it in Los Angeles, and you know, some of them are going to be a lot better than you. Certainly, any animator is better than me. Maybe not any animator, but like a lot of the people out there, or at least have more relevant training than I do, because I trained as a filmmaker. But it's also like some of the few people, when I was in my 20s and really trying to be a filmmaker and like hoping I'd make it in Hollywood, I didn't know how to accomplish that because I didn't have like connections. I didn't have people who were, you know, it's about who you know. It's not about what you know, right? But the few people who really got that I was really talented as a filmmaker, a lot of them were like, oh, he's really talented as a filmmaker, and that's a threat to me. Like, I need to compete with him. I need to kill this guy. They were saying that about me. Like, there were people in my 20s, I was bullied a lot. I was treated badly a lot, and I had people like openly try to sabotage my career a lot in film school and otherwise. It was weird because I was like this kind of naive kid who was like, oh, you know, we're all gonna be. I was part of an amateur film community outside of Los Angeles, which is just like this nationwide attempt to bring together the few people back then who were like making little movies with their friends. And like I didn't know that there were other people out there who made their little movies. It seems weird now, like YouTube, because of course if you're making movies, you can and nobody cares. But it was such a rare thing back then, and we're all making, like, sharing on VHS at first and then DVDs later. But like it was VHS, it was like that's how old it was. We were making these movies, but I was like, oh, you know, we'll all come up together and we'll all get famous like Kevin Smith or Robert Rodriguez. And, you know, we didn't. And there was a lot of infighting eventually, because when you're dealing with creative people, eventually a lot of them are just going to be psycho. And so, But film school was also difficult for similar reasons. Okay, you've asked this twice. What do you do for my bread and butter? I've answered this a few times. I'm not doing anything right now. I'm very talented and nobody has hired me. And it's worrying, to be honest. Like, I'm beginning to think like maybe I can't actually survive under capitalism. And I do, I feel weird because a lot of the stuff I've done is famous, but it doesn't seem to result in me actually having enough of a following to be making money. And I was just saying this, but like, there are websites which post how much like a celebrity is making, even like really minor celebrities. So they've got like one of me, and it's completely wrong. Like, they just make this stuff up, but it was based on, it's not a high number. It's not like a high income, but I'm not really making any income right now, but it was based on like, what if my semi-popular YouTube channel was making as much money as it's ever made in 1 month all the time, you know, then I would be making that much money. I'd probably be okay. But like, rent is 4 times what it used to be, and my income is basically nothing at this point. So I don't know. I wanted to be a screenwriter. I was just talking to someone the other day. Probably shouldn't name names, but very nice fella who is a television writer who sort of had the career that I would have liked to have, was supposed to have back in the day. He's a TV writer now. He's worked on a lot of good stuff. We were just talking about this because I was like, what advice would you give to somebody whose career just never started? You know? And he was reading one of my old scripts because I was working on a new feature script recently, but I haven't done that much work on it. I've been feeling too sick to write for a long time. My life has been very stressful, and I'm very burnt out, and it makes it just hard to write. And I've got a novel that I haven't finished, which I started in 2009, I think. I was certainly 2010. I was trying to finish that recently too, and it just kind of got away from me because it was so complicated. And I just don't have the like memory for it anymore. I got memory problems from PTSD from how shitty my life has been for a long time, because it was just like, you know, in Los Angeles, you're nobody, and that's that can be good because it's also like nobody asks questions. You know, you can just sort of do what you're doing. But like, in terms of getting work and getting famous, is like, no, you need to be somebody's kid. And I wasn't, you know, I never had a father or a mother in the traditional sense. But I certainly didn't have somebody who was getting me jobs. Or like, they're saying like, oh, you went to USC Film School, and if you listen to like, okay, I saw Kevin Feige, who runs Marvel, speak at USC a few years ago. They were showing Iron Man. Jon Favreau was there, and so Kevin Feige was telling his story, and he's older than I am, and it was very similar to my story up to a point. You know, like, he goes to USC Film School a few years earlier than I did, and he says he only ever applied for one job. I don't know if that's true, but that's what he says. He applied for an internship with the Donners, Richard, Lauren Donner, Lauren Schiller Donner, isn't it? Anyway, he applied for an internship with the Donners, and that gradually led to X-Men, which led to Marvel. So it was like, you know, my story of non-success is very similar to any filmmaker's story of success up to a certain point. And that point was, I think the main problem for everybody my age, maybe not everybody my age, but the bottom fell out of the economy in the 2000s. And that, like, after 9/11, it was just this gradual decline, right? And some people did okay with that, but I think you needed more support from friends and family than I had to make it through those years. I just had a rough time of it. I just never fit in Los Angeles, socially or whatever. I think we just lost picture, so I'm gonna switch the battery again. I'll be back in a second with whatever is happening here. But like, it's really true that getting work in Hollywood is it's about referrals. You know, you can't just apply for a job in the industry. So I wrote about 30,000 emails and queries to try and get work in the film industry, or to get any work at all, to be honest, over a period of 15 years. And I never got a response from anyone. And that made it harder to get work, because if you haven't worked for anybody, nobody knows you, and the work you've done starts to seem weirder. It doesn't fit into a box, right? Because you've been doing your own stuff. It just doesn't fit into the increasingly automated programs that look at this stuff. So if there's any kind of gatekeeping involved, no one would ever even see my resume or my queries. And of course, there's always 1,000 layers of gatekeeping involved. So I was someone who I think anyone who knew me back then thought that, including myself, thought that I would be a film director in Hollywood, that I would be a big shot pretty shortly. And that doesn't mean they thought of that in a positive way. Like a lot of them, a lot of people in my 20s didn't like me for whatever reason, wanted me dead, like, immediately. A lot of people in Los Angeles just immediately saw that I had some kind of different energy than they did, and immediately wanted me dead, basically. It was very confusing for a very naive young man as I was back then, to deal with that. It was right. I was bullied very hard for my 20s, but like, people who supported me and a lot of people who didn't support me all thought I'd be like a very famous film director within a few years. And as it happened, I couldn't get a job at a shoe store. I couldn't get a job, I couldn't get like an internship. I couldn't get this or that. And the economy was dropping out after 9/11. And when I graduated in, I want to say 04, sounds right. Should have been 03, but there were some politics involved, if you believe that. because the film school was sort of intended to be a microcosm of Hollywood, but not like in a nice way. It was like, we're gonna treat you, we're gonna bully you, and it's gonna be like, oh, it's just politics, and people are stabbing each other in the back to get ahead. It was rough, like sometimes. Like some of these classes were very purposely cultivating a very toxic atmosphere. Film school was awful. It really was. And it made me realize that Los Angeles was not my kind of place. But I couldn't go back home either at that point to Connecticut, and I didn't really have a place where I fit in. And I didn't really have a home, and Los Angeles made me ill. It gave me headaches and allergies, and made me almost comatose, increasingly so as I age. It really fucked me up because I'm allergic to whatever's in the air and water here. Very much so. It's just, it's a desert, and I'm not built for it. It makes me very ill. I did get sinus surgery, and I'm really trying to work through it, but I am sick and miserable most of the time. And that does make it harder. But yeah, people really thought I'd succeed, but it was like I never got to take that first step even, because no one would ever respond to a query email, because that's not how it's done. People hire their friends, they hire people they know, and that's about it. And people say to me, Garrett, you went to USC Film School, so that's where your connections came from. Like, people who have succeeded, they'll say, oh, when I was at film school, it wasn't about the film school, which I didn't realize at the time. Like, I was really disappointed I shouldn't say this, but USC was like a fake school as far as I was concerned. Like, they weren't really doing education for the most part. But Los Angeles is always like it's a party and you're not invited, It's a miserable place to live. It's, for me anyway, it's just the most miserable, joyless place in the world. I'm not sure what I'm looking at all of a sudden, but I think this is a ring bauble. This is kind of ambiguous. Yeah. Los Angeles can be really miserable if you're not invited to the party. And people say, well, it's the people you meet when you're in your 20s. These are the people you'll be seeing for the rest of your career. And the people I met in my 20s, certainly like the people I knew at film school, like, they didn't go on to anything. Like, we were being charged. I went very deeply into debt, and that didn't help. Like $125,000 in student loans, and then I never had a job for the rest of my life. So you do the math. But the people that I knew in film school were not people who went on to further work in the industry. I mean, some of them to an extent, like, I've looked it up, and like a little, but not really. Like, and they're not people who I was friends with or could get jobs with out of now. Like, the people who succeeded the most were the real nasty sons of bitches who I would pay any amount of money to never have to think about again. That was true about film school, and that was true about the people I knew who were making amateur films. And a friend of mine, who I don't talk to very much, but he's a longtime friend, who was also making amateur movies back in the day on mini DV. He said to me, Garrett, a lot of people's dreams of success just die. Like, he said, I think my dreams of success just died after a while, but yours were murdered. because when I was in my 20s, a lot of people thought that I'd be successful, and that made them want to fuck with my career. And the people who were worst at that were the most successful afterwards. I don't know if they were successful because of that attitude, maybe, but it's definitely it speaks badly to me about what it takes to succeed. Yeah, but but generally speaking, the people I met in film school are not, in Hollywood, doing any work in Hollywood. They're not like people who like. The old way was that the people you met in film school would be like George Lucas, that was how they sold it to you. Like, oh, we'll all get famous together and we'll all help each other. And I didn't have that in film school. I wasn't really impressed by most of the people there, and they were not people who went on to do further work. But I had my own kind of community of amateur filmmakers across the country. We met up a few times, and that was something which also became really fucked up after a while, just because of interpersonal drama with people who just, again, would step over you and ruin your life to achieve any kind of, like, that they felt that they could not succeed without fucking up everybody else's life. So, and it was such low stakes stuff at the time, because we were just making little movies on VHS, or I was making student films, or this or that. But people, would get very serious about it and would try to ruin your grade, get you held back, fuck with your script and do this and that. And so I saw very much like a microcosm of the worst parts of Hollywood, and it was traumatizing. But it's also like people say, well, you're just supposed to, like, your old friends from college. I was like, all my actual friends from college were people who also thought that this was bullshit and who, did not keep working in Hollywood. That's not totally true. But like the friend group I had back then, I don't even talk to anyway, but like the people I was really close to were not like people who were even doing film stuff or going on to that. And the people I knew from film classes were didn't go on. So we were all sort of paying a lot of money to do. And I hoped that after graduation, like I went to the career counselor several times, several years apart, and I was like, okay, so what can you do for me to help me get that first job? And they were like, we need you to leave the office right now. They're like, please get out, and if it hasn't happened for you yet, it's not going to happen. Like, they were very rude about this, and it was like, I thought that there would be some sort of like gateway, like some sort of way to get you that first job or that internship where you're fetching coffee for somebody, but that gets you the next job and this and that. Like, that sort of eases you into the film industry. And they had nothing like that at the time. They do now, I think. I think just because they started to realize that their reputation was hinging at this point on a lie. Like, I think that these schools, a lot of times, they just like to, they take credit for people who already have rich parents and who are going to be successful or whatever. And if you can't get anybody in Hollywood to read your script, like, I wrote like a dozen screenplays, and I couldn't get anyone to actually read them. So I couldn't get work as a writer, and I couldn't get like an internship, or I couldn't like be fetching coffee for somebody. And I did a few jobs before I left Hollywood in 2009, and but before that, I did a few jobs, but they were all jobs where I was ripped off and taken advantage of for the most part. Like treated really badly and not paid, and my life was threatened, and the final product wasn't what it should have been, and it was actually like a prank. Like the whole thing was just an elaborate prank on me. I had a lot of bad experiences where like this whole thing, I would go and put my whole heart into a TV show for a major network, or a feature that I was doing, or a feature that I was doing the making of for, and it would always be like I was ripped off at the end, or the whole thing had been an elaborate prank on me, or turned out to be or had been that from the start, or just kind of became that, and you don't really know one way or the other. And it was like, Jesus Christ, like I got PTSD from being shit on so many times in projects in my 20s, which I approached with my whole heart, saying like, I want to make this movie better, and I'm going to help, and I'm going to be helpful, and I'm going to really be present, and I'm going to use what I know, and I'm going to be thoughtful and teaching. And like, people don't want to be taught. Like, if they don't know something, they don't want to be taught anything. Like, if you come into a set like you know something, a lot of times people will want you dead for it. Like, they're like, oh, he's got an attitude, you know. He thinks he knows something. It's like, I was approaching these projects like I really wanted to help, but then like this is a pilot for a major network which went to series, and when it went to series and aired, they'd edited it. Like, it was clear, like from the start, like they were just trying to make fun of us. Like they'd hired comedians and who were doing comedy, and they were like, look at these retards. Like, that was really the show. And they had a lot of really talented people. Like, they were great singers, great dancers, and they would edit around anything good they did. And like, if someone was doing an amazing high note, they would just show that high note and like pretend and like cut to a footage of someone we'd never met wincing at like that high note. Like, there was someone who I think was called Aria, who was like really good. Like, I just remember that because there's like a singer called Aria, because an aria is a song. But so these were all people who like wanted to get somewhere and who were really excited about doing this pilot for a major network. And like, the pilot was literally just making fun of poor people or people who weren't in the industry yet, you know. And so was the series, which didn't do well. But like, before it aired, they came to me saying, do you have anybody else who could play your part in the next shows? I hadn't seen it yet, but they were using the same script for every episode. And I was like, they didn't use what we'd shot. Like, they were not, it was all like a prank. Like, they were shooting something else and edited it into something else, and it was awful. It was just the most unprofessional bullshit you've ever seen. And there's a lot of crap like that. So, you know, I'd had a guy pull a gun on me. I had, you know, my life threatened. I had my career threatened. I've had my name dragged through the mud just because people felt threatened by the fact that I was trying to help, you know, them make a movie. And they were like, this guy knows too much about filmmaking, maybe. It was, and they were like, I don't like his attitude, or they were just kind of like this shitty production company that wasn't going to pay me after a certain point, or this or that. And I haven't even checked the chat. I'm going off on a tangent. I shouldn't even talk about this shit. But it's been, I've had some, but I guess my point is that I had enough traumatic experiences in my 20s that were related to filmmaking that it fucked me up. And now that I'm back in Los Angeles as of 2015, end of 2015, it's hard to be like open about things, and a lot of this stuff that I've done still, like, people still bug me about it, and it's ruined my Google searches. Like, you can't find the good stuff I've done, and people talk about like stuff that no one should see and no one should know about, like there's, or that is made up. Like, there's a lot about me for being someone. I kind of got the worst of both worlds, because I don't have enough of a following that I'm making money at this point. And I hate to be like about popularity on social media, but popularity on social media translates to money. And I'm one of those people who, I was either going to be a hugely successful filmmaker, like a creator of TV series, animated series, films, stuff like that. You know, I was either going to be like a less rapey Joss Whedon, but like with that level of success, without the rape, but with that level of success, or I was going to be on the street, because I just have no other non-creative. Like, I've got a lot of skills as a creative person. I am very talented at a lot of things, and always was. And I put a lot of work. I'm always doing creative stuff. I'm doing a lot of interesting stuff. But that means that it's hard to apply to jobs of any kind. Because even in the entertainment industry, if you're actually filling out a job application, and they don't look at job applications in the entertainment industry anyway, but none of my experience fits into a job application in a normal way. It just doesn't. And I've always worked for myself pretty much, and I've always just done my own thing, because partly because I do what I want, and partly because no one's hired me, so I'll do what I want. I'm not going to do what I don't want to do if nobody's paying me for it. And generally speaking, people aren't paying me. Like, I didn't get The Thief and the Cobbler obviously was a project that I just felt like doing. And that's always served me well as a guiding light of what I should be doing with my life. I just sort of do what I need to be doing at that point. But I do see your question about She-Hulk. I'm just trying not to lose my train of thought. Because I do get very, I don't know, it's always been hard to, you see me going on and on about stuff because it's like, it's complicated. And I don't lie, you know, I don't lie about things, and I find it really hard to summarize stuff quickly because it's complicated, and I want to portray stuff in as complicated as it is, and I think that's that also doesn't help me as a career, because I think people just don't understand, and the more I explain myself, I think the more they don't understand. And that was certainly true in Hollywood, where you'd think they would know how to deal with people being creative and having like brains that work a little differently, but they don't. Like, they want to put you into a box, and they want people who work in a specific way and who aren't. So all the hallmarks of like the creative brain, I think, are red flags to people when they shouldn't be. But I think abusers and like rapists and real awful sons of bitches make the rules. They don't necessarily run Hollywood, but they make the rules. And so, yeah, I mean, not to name names, but I guess I can say Harvey Weinstein was a problem with this film in particular. Harvey Weinstein was a problem with this film. But, you know, a lot of people were a problem with this film. But Harvey Weinstein was a problem in this film. But, you know, he was a very successful abuser. I was talking, I think last year, it was a little while ago now, I was talking to somebody who's was a film, like a film and music entertainment producer who sort of got Harvey his start, and who had a lot of kind of funny stories about stuff like that. And he feels bad about kind of giving Harvey his start. But he was someone who we were talking about putting together a tribute to Neil Innis, who I was a big fan of and kind of, you know, knew as a friend. I think a lot of his fans, he was friendly with a lot of his fans, including myself. But he passed away. A lot of like the Monty Python people are passing away lately. Like Tim Brooke Taylor died, and Terry Jones died, and Neil Innis died. I used to run a Monty Python website back when that meant something. Yeah. But okay, yeah, I don't know if I should switch and start talking to She-Hulk or start or continue trying to find my point. Like, I'm the kind of guy who I'll talk for like 2 hours and not find the point. Because I don't know it myself, you know. I'm trying to figure this out myself. Like, these are the questions that keep me up at night, because I just couldn't. I just couldn't crack that gatekeeping at all, even a little. Like, you couldn't even get anyone to answer an email in the entertainment industry or in any industry, because after a certain point, my resume was very creative and was also entirely stuff that I'd done myself, pretty much. Not entirely. Like, I list stuff that I was paid for. I've done a lot of freelance work. And I tried to make my resume that, but a lot of times it was stuff that I had a bad experience with. So I was like, I don't want you to actually contact that employer, because they're someone who was awful, like didn't pay me and fucked with me and really were bad. There's just, I had a lot of bad experiences, because you do if you don't have money. If you're in Los Angeles and you don't have money, your life is in danger like a lot, and your career is in danger a lot when you're doing like freelance in Los Angeles. You really don't know what you're dealing with, or creative freelance in general. Like, a lot of people are just full of shit. Full stop. And I'm not full of shit, but like, people don't know that. Like, they don't know that what I can do, and I increasingly can't even explain what I'm doing, because I'm sort of just passing the time with what. Because I've got a lot of trauma at this point, and I'm just kind of doing what I do. Whatever I can stand to do, I'll do. And it usually doesn't get a lot of impact on social media anymore. And I don't get it, you know. I think I'm hiding from the world in some ways, but it's not on purpose. I was doing a web series for years, and it hasn't officially come out, and and like nobody saw it. And I've had a lot of projects like that which sort of fizzled, and like nobody properly got to see. I need to count fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that's not a finger. That's like that's a ring. I should have known that. 1, 2. Okay, I get it. I'm trying to figure out what I'm drawing before I draw it. Don't mind me. you know, I just wanted somebody to give me a chance at any point. And you can't just do that. You know, you can't just come off the street because they, you realize after a while why, because everybody, you know, wanted to be in the entertainment industry and they're all full of shit. And I was a screenwriter and I couldn't get anyone to read my screenplays, and my screenplays were good. But I couldn't get anyone to read them, and you realize after a while why. Like if you start actually reading other people's screenplays, you realize that, oh, 99.9% of screenplays that people write are unreadable trash. So of course there's gatekeeping, and I just couldn't get through that because nobody knows who I am, or at least when people know who I am, it's not in the right industry, or it's this or that, you know, it's not quite the right thing. Because like I think animation people know that I did this, but that doesn't really help. And you know, nobody's calling. Nobody's saying, oh, we need to hire Gary Gilchrist for this. I mean, it happens sometimes, and a lot of times it ends very badly because I'm sort of begging for work, I guess, or you know, I try not to be desperate about it, so I just don't take the work now. If I like to think this hasn't come up because people aren't really like hiring me with work, but I like to think that I would be less desperate because I've had a lot of bad experiences, but you don't really know. I've had like wonderful clients, actually, but I've also been dicked around a lot. And you know, the bad experiences stick with you. Like the good experiences you forget, but the bad experiences really scar you. Like I had a client. I had a couple clients for drawing, painting video game covers who were wonderful, and I kept working with them over and over and over again, and there was no problem whatsoever. You know, they'd pay me a few $100 and I'd do it. And I wrote for an industry magazine called Cinemontage, the Editors Guild magazine. I wrote for that magazine for maybe 6 years, something like that. But that was just because it was through a friend. Like a friend recommended me, and I met with the guy. Like I just had like lunch with the guy, and then I had a job for 6 years, and that's how it works. And you can't always get that. You can't always like. You know, it's about who you know, and I didn't have the money to be social. I wasn't out there, so. I have no opinion about the new She-Hulk until I've actually seen it, I guess. I do like Tatiana Maslany. I think she gave one of the all-time great performances in Orphan Black, and I think it looks fine. I think She-Hulk looks fine. Like, I'm cautiously optimistic. I don't really want to draw another Zigzag. Honestly, I think I'm done. I think I'm fucking done for today, to be honest. I do have one more, but I'm not really into it. And I think I'm going to let it go. But thank you for sticking around. I'm just complaining about my career. And that doesn't help either. Like if you complain that nobody's giving you work, nobody's going to give you work if you're complaining. But I'm honest. I've always been honest, and that certainly scares people who are lying about things. I don't know. Anyway, thanks for being here as I'm bitching about things, and I think I'll just end the stream here. Because I'm going to go and scan these and do the work. Maybe I'll come back for Photoshop Array, but I really shouldn't. That's that. But thank you for